Planting in the open isn't the best moment for the job. It's stab to drop. He found 3. It's not enough.
Yes, Dodo is definitely the star player of this Saw roster, but his heroics were not enough in that round. Apeks able to make that slow style come back to bite Saw a little bit in the later stages of that round. They didn't have the utility in reserve to take the B site convincingly, and that obviously leaves the plant super open, especially with low HP. That was never going to happen. Muterus falls, the bomb does as well, and, well, Apeks are on the board with their first round so far. Hopefully the first of many for them. They will reinvest with pretty much the same buy that they saw before, except one AK-47 on Freddy Frog. He'll use that to great advantage, holding this B bomb site down. And Arky back on a pistol, notably on the T side. Everybody else, plenty of utility, and 4 AKs. Still a dangerous round, but after this one, if the CTs can hold, it should be an easy tie.
And if they don't, their money is broken. Low loss bonus, low reserve. They've got nothing in the back pockets. The richest player being Dennis, $750. Not really too much to talk about. Smoke placed. Minute 10 remains. Here comes the peaks, though. Off the back of that flashbang, gives them the space onto the ramp. And Kreese wants to take the swing. He takes both frags with it. Needs the re-peak as well. They're going to play this one somewhat over-aggressively with just punishing. That evens things up and gives Saw a glimmer of hope. An opportunity onto A. They're going to take it. Right through Speedway. Here comes... on the scaffolding play. There's nobody holding in this angle, and the smoke is going to force Kreese into the open. Even numbers already. They didn't need to take these risks, Pronogo, but they have anyway, and that might be to Apeks' detriment, and such an important round as well. Flash placed right in the AWP's face. It's Relaxer to drop, and this A bomb site has completely crumbled. C4 should easily go down. There's a question mark whether they want to save these 2 rifles, one of which being the FAMAS. I wouldn't say so. They should look for these frags. Spray through the smoke, not connecting. And Saw can fall back into more passive lines. This is when you'll see a tempered defense.
Yeah, this is so tense if you're Apeks trying to take this one. Freddy Frog is going to spot out a couple players, but his position called out. This attack does not look successful from the CTs. He's only good for 1 on the take, and the FAMAS is on the field. Dennis upgrading to the AWP. What can he do?
This is so tough. Instantly headshotted out of the server. 4-1 Saw. That was very convincing. So they went down 2 players very early on. 5 versus 3s should be more than winnable for a CT side, especially in such an economical crunch round. You see they've got nothing left.
Yeah, that was a do-or-die scenario for Apeks. Not only that, but with Dennis picking up that AWP, that was an opportunity to salvage the most expensive gun that was on the field in that round, and they weren't able to do it because he goes aggressive, not even tapping the bomb, not trying to instill any degree of fake. Honestly, Saw didn't even know where he was necessarily. There was not really much of an audio cue given. He could have scarpered off with that rifle, but doesn't do so and instead pays with his life. Now it's Gruss to try to hold on the scaffolding position, and he's able to do some damage. It's a very, very tricky position to clear as the T's because there's so many micro adjustments you can make in that area. But Saw, they've got the discipline and the utility to make it happen.
AK-47 should be enough. We see Saw win the overwhelming majority of these heavy buy rounds against the Ecos, even against a scary team like Apeks. Initial kill, mid-control taken. Kreese can't even really punish this. If he wide swings, likely another Deagle to drop. They do want to take these risks, but it's a little bit disjointed, Pronogo. You see Relaxer finds one. Obviously not done. That ramp position, so powerful for the Deagles. Saw know it. They're going to back off.
Yeah, I'm seeing symptoms of the team being a little bit younger on the Apeks side right now. They're not swinging in unison as much. Their spacing a little bit questionable, and Saw are able to punish that. It's much easier to capitalize on that mistake than it is to avoid making it. Freddy, he's got a couple of good crosshair placements, though. He'll fire off some shots and take Arky with him.
He's playing a head glitch angle, incredibly powerful on the B bomb site, and now that forces the AK-47s into the blender. Rome has to do everything. A 1 versus 3. The Desert Eagle flirting with the angles, another headshot, and now he has to be aware of everything. The flank coming through, it's Relaxer too. We know he knows how to use every gun in his arsenal, and there's the AK-47 to finish it.
I believed in that Rome 1v3, but it was definitely tougher than it looked. And now Relaxa, he's looking for any sniper rifle, perhaps, to bring it on into the next round. He won't find it. He will find the defuse, and Apeks will find their second. Super important that they answer back in this fashion, because Saw we're going to potentially start a runaway train, and maybe that would even have shaken the confidence of the more Nordic, Swedish side here. As we get into the 7th, you have to remember that the buys are looking okay now for the CTs, and not really so for the Spanish and Portuguese side of sAw. The T's, of course, only bringing out a couple of upgraded pistols and the AKs that they could afford. So this is a bit of a force. And sAw, of course, one to be reckoned with. Bear that in mind as we get into this one, as they are the favorites of this whole series. Relaxa, breaking out the AWP, dropped over from one of his teammates. Let's see if he can get anything done with it. Grass already fallen.
This looks a lot more speedy from sAw. They know they're up against a full buy, and with only pistols in hand on 3 players, they need to take the risk, and towards the A bomb site, definitely the way to go. Molotov works both times in a row, forces Kreese out. Second time he's made that mistake and been punished. AWP wants to get aggressive off the back of this, and Relaxa does have the angle, supported by a follow-up AUG. Flashbang to force him away, and misses the flick as a response. That should make the A-bomb site absolutely crumble. Molotov's in, and Dennis, low HP, does drop the bomb, but he needs the Freddy Frog support, and it's just not quick enough. The smoke's there to prevent all of the cover. Realistically, Freddy might even have to save this one. 1v4, rifles to be retrieved. Rome, there's probably one on the ground. There's certainly an AWP beside the scaffolding. So it'll be that 5-2 lead.
Yeah, this is starting to look pretty grim over here if you're on the Apeks side. Of course, Arky, the opper of this sAw roster, he will be picking that one up and cracking off a few shots just to announce the presence. Freddy Frog, definitely doing the right thing here, trying to save. Almost no chance despite the low HP. You want him to kind of go for these just to maybe do some economic damage at the very least, but it's so difficult to do so, and it's so difficult to support your team when you're in that backline area of the A bomb site, and you're having to deal with all of those utility, all those smoke grenades that just isolate all of the angles.
Are they really
That's what
thinking
sAw are known
about
for.
not carrying this AWP into the next? They actually drop it. Replaced by an AK-47, this is one of the few maps where that's viable. You don't play an AWP on the T side.
Absolutely the case. Arky just showing us that he's interested in maybe throwing some misdirection there, right? I bought into it, and maybe the CTs have as well. They might be expecting an op posted up in one of the few angles where it does make sense. Occasionally see those duels at the A ramp or perhaps in the mid area. Right now it's A again, of course, and CTs are not looking too well equipped here. Just a couple smokes, a single HE, and of course some upgraded pistols. Freddy Frog's saved AUG. That's all they have to their name, and they are looking for a third on the board, but it's so rough when Just is lurking in that smoke.
That is painful. Quick kills, that's a confidence builder. A bomb site cracked, and Apeks, they've got to be scratching their heads. There are bullet holes. Minute 10, and well, this round's already over, Pronogo. I guess Freddy Frog will look to save the AUG once again into the next, not wanting to throw away that excess cash. He's got 2250 in his back pocket, so there's an opportunity for a double AWP setup, but remember, this is Vertigo, and realistically, sAw didn't even want one, so picking up 2 as CT can certainly be a risk. Maybe Apeks need to take a risk to get back into the game.
Yeah, one of their more successful rounds was, of course, that force buy where they were able to make sAw a little uncomfortable. That's clearly something that they need to work into their game plan more often, find a little bit more success that way, because right now sAw are definitely playing their own game, able to execute onto A over and over again. The B-bomb site's been a little bit less successful for the T's so far, and I think that that's very much down to the anchors over there on the Apeks side, and right now they need to be doing more work to defend this A ramp before they get into that mid-round, that post-plant scenario where it is indeed so difficult to retake if you don't have the utility. And the economy just hasn't been there for the CTs. It makes sense why they wouldn't necessarily have all of the nades that they need to successfully retake. And maybe their protocols aren't in place. This is sAw's map pick, so of course we would expect them to trail ahead a little bit here. Up 4 rounds right now are the T's. This is yet another rifle round. No AWP, notably. 5 rifles on either side.
It's one of the trickiest factors of Vertigo. The fact that you will be strapped for cash on the CT half, won't have those smokes, no Molotovs. This round resembling that. They've only got the 2 incense to play with, and lack of smoke grenades as well. Only the one to be played from Freddy Frog. How are you supposed to stop sAw from taking these bomb sites when you don't have even 2 pieces of utility? This sucks. Freddy Frog forced off the angle. Remember, if he goes down, there are no smoke grenades to be played from Apeks. Angle taken. Nade looks to pop over the top.
That boost was very dangerous from Arky as well. He might have been able to catch any aggression on the CT side. And once the utility is out of the question, pretty much any forward position will be punished.
Awkward.
They're bleeding the utility so much on this sAw side. Very little left for Apeks.
Didn't have much to start with. Only those 2 incens. They're retaining them. They want them for either an afterplant scenario, the 20-second mark where they are more powerful, but the A site seems to be the approach. You watch Dennis towards mid as the AK-47s crunch on A. Kree's forced into more passive lines by incendiary grenades. Remember, Apeks barely have any to hold this one back. They've thrown them all. sAw encroaching, Roam with more and more frags. The M4NS just absolutely doing the damage. It's beautiful. 7-2.
7-2 and a dominant lead here. Very, very dominant coming up from sAw. Not only that, but the fact that they're able to win without the Apeks side saving a single rifle in so many of these gun rounds is going to absolutely butcher their economy on the defensive side. We do have a pause coming out here, and it's probably a good time for one if you ask me. They got to talk over what the CTs want to do with their economy. The Apeks side, bit of a mix here. Only one player nearing that 5K mark. Kree's has got enough to hero buy an AWP and nothing else, so everybody else is maybe contemplating a bit of a force here.
These polarized buy situations, exactly the time that you want to take a pause. 7-2 as well. You're significantly down by 5. This really isn't a good scenario. CT side, you don't envy them in this scenario.
When you think about the more experienced team, particularly on Vertigo, that is, of course, sAw. And if they're getting off to such a heater of a start on the T side, it might be even more difficult to beat them when they are on the CT side as well. These are all things that are be in the heads of Apeks right now. They have, of course, bought up those upgraded pistols, a single HE on Gruss. See if they can take some players low, cause some economic damage, steal away some rifles, maybe even look to steal away the round, but with this A stack, it's looking unlikely. sAw have just been so good taking ramp.
We've seen it so many times when Apeks haven't had the money to invest, so going for a harder eco in this scenario will give them nades in the next. Remember, they'll have the 3,400 loss bonus. That's a bit to work with. We'll see the M4s in the AWP come out. Obviously, a full set of utility. This round, not too interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. The only point of damage is on adjust from that HE, and it's literally 1 point of damage. I don't expect Apeks to have too much more success here, but they are reading the scenario a little bit correctly. They are cheating a couple players more towards the B and mid areas. And that's, of course, where sAw are. This will be yet another execute. See if they can find some success against the limited buys of Apeks.
This is exactly how they won their last eco, remember, Pronogo. Stacking a bomb site, this time not as successful. They've lost almost everybody, and that confirms it. 4 quick kills, B bomb site falls. This will be an 8 for sAw, almost a guarantee when you look at the buys at the very start, but Apeks just cannot get the job done in negligible damage.
It would be really nice if Relaxa can steal away a kill here, but Muterus has the angle watched, and, well, it's just not good enough for the Apeks side. sAw take their 8th, just the only player to go down, and, well, he had 10K at the start of this round, so we get into number 11. There's no questions asked. It will be another 5 AK round. This time we do see double AWPs coming out from the CTs. First time so far in this game that we've seen that, and that absolutely needs to be the difference maker if they want to contend against sAw, who have already won the half with 8 rounds. Will definitely be challenging to do so, but those secondary snipers might be all that they need.
And this is already brutal. Spraying through the smoke, finding a kill basically for free. Yes, Stad takes damage, but it's not an even trade. Even a 4 versus 4 would favor the T side. Spreads the defense, especially on a map like Vertigo, but Stad, he's still alive, still a factor in the round.
Still plenty of weapons on the CT side. You did see Just throwing that M4 down the rafters there, and on the off chance that maybe this is a hero buy. So sAw may not have correctly read the economy, but even so, when these oppers reveal themselves, sAw seem like they have the protocols to avoid it.
So nasty. basically a naked peek towards the middle of the map. Orb needs to compete with it, and Freddy Frog now outmaneuvered, sees the cross onto the B bomb site. It's Arky, of course. Quick nades to force him out of position. Negligible damage, but does force him into the open. Cannot burn alive in toast to the mollies, and Arky knows the angle perfectly. That allows the bomb an avenue of approach inside, and these AK-47s, no surprise that sAw doesn't want the AWP. They've been brutal just with the AK-47s alone.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And sAw have not had to change up their plan all that much. They hear the ops, and Arky takes so much space towards B, and because of the pressure exerted on mid, then of course the CTs don't feel comfortable rotating over, so their rotations are stalled out on the A bomb site with the remaining 2 members, and when, of course, the Opper and Freddy Frog falls, and Relaxa too, there's just no way you're going to make it happen, and apparently neither of these AWPs are going to be carried into the next round either, so this is absolutely a brutal round. sAw have basically taken everything.
Certainly. And the M4's now in jeopardy. If Just checks the angle, which he will, quick kill, that's nasty. 9-2. No rifles carried through, and this just looks absolutely dominant. Vertigo is one of those maps, if your opponents are uncomfortable, you can really abuse that. Even in 2021, there's lots of discomfort when you go to a map like this. It's not been in the pool as long, and those very tough, tricky choke points, like a ramp, very hard to hold on to if you're not prepared.
It's hard to hold on to mid either as well, and that's exactly what you're seeing in this round. We get into the 12th, and sAw are looking for a double-digit end to this half, at the least. They can certainly do better. We might see a repeat of the game we saw before, Winstrike taking on their opponents, and of course, Wisla Krakow not able to get more than 2 rounds in the opening half. CTs on this map seem to be falling to the same fate so far, and with only Deagles and a couple of leftover utility, there's not much of an argument for them to get a 3rd here. We'll have to be on the back of some very nice shots, which, of course, Kriaz is capable of. He's already up to quite a few kills himself. The rest of the roster on Apeks has gone a little quiet on Vertigo.
Trying to contend with the ramp area. There is a stack that sAw is walking into. Well, all 5 players remaining, but not for much longer. That Molotov, again, brutal. Smoke placed to bait him out of cover, but realistically, Arky's just going to spray through the smokes. Not just with the AK-47, but the follow-up Glock. This is nasty. He gets shot right off of the building, and sAw maintaining 3 players alive once again. That is the double-digit mark, Pronogo.
You got to feel for Kriaz in that situation, though. He does well to get 2, but the rest of his team just gets blindsided by the pushes coming out from sAw. The player on scaffolding falling so early as well. It feels so bad to be in a CT scenario where you feel like if you're playing that well like Kriaz is, then if you just had a rifle in such a scenario, you might be able to get more than 2 kills, but unfortunately, sAw do not give you the opportunity. Opening kill goes to Relax's sniper rifle, the sole one on the server right now, and that will give the CTs a very rare man-up advantage. Probably the first time we've seen that so far in this series, and, well, sAw, they have the ability to handle that. They did it in the pistol round, so they can surely do it in the gun round as well, but there's plenty of utility for the defenders. Might not be able to convert on this one. See if they go further than 10 in the opening half.
What sticks out to me is that previous 5 versus 3. Apeks unable to convert that one. They need to find this one. Quick shot, another 5 versus 3. It's deja vu here on Vertigo. Minute 5, and Relaxer keeps the angle posted for a follow-up headshot. Drops the bomb. Mutris needs to trade, it does. Has this control. There go the Molotovs, but it's not going to force anybody out of position, Pronogo. They do have a vantage point onto this A bomb site, but not for much longer. The foothold lost with that ramp position falling back. It's Arky to go into more passive lines, trying to find Dennis, baiting out that flank. He's in the open, gets caught with a knife out, and there's the bomb salvaged once again. It's Apeks full control this time, a much more dominant round, and that's what we often see with this team. They're very hot and cold, very hit and miss. This time Dennis with a miss. Mutris shouldn't be able to get a bomb down on the B bomb site, especially with the rotate coming in fast. Wants to hightail his way over. Obviously, the money isn't too much of a factor. Freddy Frog. 1 bullet and done, pretty much. He'll charge off the back of this audio cue, surely. It might even be a bait. Quick headshot. 6 seconds. 5. Needs to get the bomb down. Now does. That's a big advantage. I mean, they had money for the rest of the half anyway. Wanted to try his best. He obviously had to plant. There was only 5 seconds on the board.
Yeah, but this is crazy coming up from sAw that they managed to convert this 5-on-3 into almost a 1-1-on-3. That is nuts. And you got to be shook a little bit if you're on the Apex side. Okay, you got your third round, but looking at the double digits of sAw and the scary nature of that broken round scenario is not very appealing, right? It's not going to be super exciting for you if you're on the Apex side. So they need to bounce back. They need to get 5 now. They need to convert the next 2. And that's just to give them the momentum necessary to keep this map competitive. Because even if they drop this one, it's sAw's map pick. But you didn't expect to get shut out this hard.
Certainly didn't. The mid control and ramp control from sAw has been absolutely fantastic from the start. How many times have we seen them take an opening pick, take even 2 or 3 before Apeks can post absolutely anything on the board? It seems to be every single time. Arky waltzes onto the A-bomb site, pretty much on his lonesome. He's just controlling B without any support, and even the nades aren't going to force him out of position. Finally has that support, aforementioned. It's by the AK-47s. Most notably, we've not seen a single AWP from sAw since the start, abusing the setups with this 5-rifle configuration. And there's a good argument for saving in this 5v3.
I think sAw have cracked the code here. They know that the secret to getting onto B is to get an opening pick and then sort of play that mid-round scenario. They do so in mid this time around, and Stadoto, he might be able to take even more, and indeed he does. Kree is the top fragger coming out from this Apex lineup so far. Relaxa has it all to do if he wants to hold on to that sniper, and he's so low already.
Has to bail. Low HP, only 10 remains, and they will hunt aggressively for this sniper. Almost a jumping shot connecting. That was a whisker away. Relaxa towards the scaffolding. Needs to hit 4 shots perhaps before going down, and doesn't. That's an impossible scenario. Dennis, yeah, he keeps alive at AK-47, but that is the ultimate consolation prize. It's almost nothing taken.
Yeah, it's a Pyrrhic victory for Apeks, and of course it is in the eyes of yet another bomb detonation coming out from sAw. You saw that plenty of those bomb plants came after already eliminating so many CTs, to the point where whatever you save is almost inconsequential. We get into the last round of the half, and sAw could finish 12-3 here, and are favored to based on the equipment. It's a force.
Gross has basically not shown up to this map, Pronogo. He's 1 in 12. And he's going to end the half 1 in 13 thanks to that HG. Tried to play the aggressive stance. That doesn't work against such a well-versed team on Vertigo. Such is sAw. It's one of their best maps. We've seen them absolutely pound teams, especially when it comes to this T side. And we're seeing that once again on a ramp. Quick conversions, a bit of initiative towards the B bomb site, but what can they really make of it? Freddy Frog even being spotted. There's a head glitch angle placed, and they've not even found frags here in the 15th, ending the half in the saddest way possible. Dennis, he needs a masterclass, a 1 versus 5 to end this one, and I just don't see it happening. Minute for sAw, and realistically, they're just playing this one incredibly slowly. They're trying to bait him out. Look at this.
This is a bit disrespectful coming out from sAw. You love to see it.
Oh my gosh. Is he actually going to fall for this one? I guess probably. You can hear all of those footsteps. There's the punish. A 6th sense tingles. And that's a dominant half.
That is 12-3. And one last indignity for Dennis to get baited in there at the end. That is brutal for Apeks. You got to be able to shake this one off, boys. And yeah, well, the players are already jumping off the roof as we wait for the second half to start. So maybe they've already got the idea there. Apeks looking to jump straight into the next map, of course. So we will certainly see that coming up. It seems very soon if sAw keep up the pace. Really depends on how aggressive they want to be on the CT side and what Apeks have in their back pocket if they are still in the game. We saw this in the previous series we casted, of course, that Windstrike basically blew their opponents out of the water, out of the server, in fact, in the very first half. Well, sAw seemed to repeat here. Head and shoulders better than their opposition in the opening half, and maybe that will remain true even on other maps in the map pool.
And that next map that we go to, map number 2, is Dust 2.
I still favor sAw for that one as well. You have to, based on the fragging that we've seen so far. Vertigo is a tactical map for sure, but there's so much about the way that sAw are taking these fights and just, they're not even necessarily leveraging the utility in the same way that you would see maybe an Astralis, obviously. Their superlative utility usage that we've seen time and time again. those kinds of teams, they have a very different way of playing Vertigo. sAw, they just like to live up to their name, I suppose, and grind you down until you're no more. And that's exactly what's happened here against Apeks. They weren't able to force Portuguese team to change up their antics. As we get into the second half here, once again, Apeks absolutely need to take this pistol to even remain in this map. They're going to be looking to do so with a little bit of armor on Dennis and Kreese. Expect the rest of the buys to come in shortly. We do have a P250 dropped over to Dennis. He is known as being a bit of a pistol god. He's going to have to live up to that reputation in this one. On the CT side, we do have a kit and a smoke on Stadoto. See where sAw want to move around the map here. They're having quite a heavy stack towards B, one to mid, only one on A. They're expecting something very strange out of this T side of Apeks.
Apeks are set up for this, but just hits the shot anyway. Certainly a disadvantage when you peek into that angle, but Freddy Frog wasn't ready for it. Pressure on mid for Kreese to hit some shots. He doesn't time to backtrack with a man disadvantage.
That is just brutal. I mean, the CTs almost never got an opening kill in the previous half, and, well, sAw's opened theirs up with one. That's nuts. You just don't expect that, and now the take is on for A.
And these rotates are already on their way. A minute 10 and that bomb gets baited. They will go for a second attempt at the plant. That was expectant of some HEs flying over the top. Instead, it's just the USPSs to pop the shots off. Quick damage, relax it down to 5. That was a warbang, remember. With the USPS, you're usually knocking him out instantly. This time, not exactly that, but Stad will do damage. The defuse already happening, and Dennis needs this knife kill, won't find it. sAw already with the death, and that is absolutely outstanding. 13-3, they play it to perfection.
Man, that is just not what you expect going into the pistol round. Again, sAw find a miraculous way to defuse in that scenario, and it's despite the fact that there's no knife kill coming out. I mean, it came out afterwards, but it was just too little too late at that point. Oh, man, that's heartbreaking as well. You know that Apeks had a plan going into that. They hit on A. The rotates come in so soon, and off of the back of just having one smoke grenade, they're able to ninja it. Oh, I said one last indignity in the previous round, but that one was the real last one, I think.
And let's remember, that is something in sAw's locker. That's something that they've practiced and played so many times. It's not the first time I've seen sAw go for a pistol, kind of ninja defuse. It's so hard to stop. Even if you have the Glocks at close range, you need 2 or 3 players peppering down at that angle. You at least need to know the angle. You see Dennis tries to take the risk. It doesn't work out for him.
It's shades of Mirage with the CTs retaking to A in that scenario, especially after getting that opening kill towards B. Now we get into the second round of the second half, and we are going to be seeing quite a few rifles, actually, from the Ts. Of course, they got the bomb plant down, so why wouldn't they invest into this one? Plenty of FAMASas and 2 MP9s holding A here.
Oh, this looks incredibly quick. Roman angle. Smoke placed to scaffold means Stad wants to take the peek onto ramp on his lonesome. The smoke's preventing the cover. Remember, sAw, they've got all 5 players here on the pointy letter. Freddy Frog doesn't want to flirt with the idea of going back up towards ramp, instead retrieve that bomb. So they have further options. They've already baited away the full rotate. Not that sAw has shown them. Finally, the re-wrap coming back to B for sAw. Apeks seem to have made their mind up. They've got very little presence elsewhere. And through the smokes, is this where sAw tries to get aggressive? Certainly the opportunity to punish this for Apeks. They should be able to. They've got sandbags completely locked away. And sAw don't really know what's going on here. Quick kill, Dennis. Does get traded by the FAMAS. And that's one of the AK-47s dropping. Remember, Gruss only has the Desert Eagle. I would put him on that weapon considering only 1 kill in the first half. FAMAS towards B, it's the only rifle towards this side of the map, and I guess Apeks wants to apply the pressure. They've got no secondary options, so Freddy Frog has to open up. He does for 2. Molotov over the top. Muteris, the only player to play towards the scaffolding position, will likely get taken out as well. It looks like Freddy Frog is entirely aware. All the kills for him.
This is a very clean take on A. Obviously, there's limited utility coming out from the CTs, so they simply couldn't answer back, and the one HE that just went over the heads. Not any damage to speak of. And, well, Apeks, they've got a 4th on the cards here. First successful round, they convert back. That's also going to break the economy of the CTs, remember? So we should be seeing a 5th potentially on the cards a little bit later on. And that's exactly what you need to see. They need to get back into this game, and not only that, but they need to do so in a pretty big statement way. That's not bad, only dropping one player and, of course, converting off of a pistol round loss.
This will be a force buy, surely. This is double eco territory, Pronogo. They could play very reserved. They are 13-4 ahead, so risks don't need to be taken. And they seem to disagree with me. Oh, perhaps they don't. There go the late Kevlar's 4, in fact. Started keeping a little bit of money in his back pocket to maybe pick up one of those early AWPs, but it's not enough to be a difference maker. They do want to close this out early. This is the standard.
Yeah, and what sAw are also going to be looking to do here is really abuse Apeks in a way that they've been doing so far. Apeks' confidence may be shaken if they end up dropping this round, and, well, at this point, all the rounds are to play for. Your opponents are only 2 rounds away from threatening match point, and it feels like you just got into this game.
This map has barely started, and Apeks still so far away from the finish line, despite sAw being in within a touching distance.
Just a single flash left on Rome right now. Kevlar is good if you're going to be trying to take these trades, and the CZ did get that accuracy buff at long ranges when you're just tapping, so it's not entirely unreasonable to play this angle the way sAw is playing it, but Gruss, he's trying to hit some shots over here. Not been so successful so far, 1 in 14, remember, but if he can build his confidence ahead of the second map, that might be the difference maker for Apeks.
So many CZs. We're seeing a bit of a resurgence of that particular pistol in 2021. This should be ripped apart, though, by the AK-47s. Once upon a time, that CZ-75 was one of the most brutal weapons in the game. Certainly the most brutal pistol, but this time not really able to find more than just the one. Dennis Falls, nobody else, in 5 for Apeks.
It's a pistol upgrade delivery service coming out of sAw here, so Apeks will, of course, take quite a few of those. Some of them may have even thrown away the CZs in favor of the Glock, as a matter of fact, funnily enough. Obviously, that extended reload period certainly doesn't do you any favors if you are in a close quarters scenario. So, of course, it'll be an eco for sAw. Don't expect anything here, not a dollar invested. Only very rarely do you see these go the way of the CTs. Apeks, on the other hand, they should be able to use this as maybe even an extended timeout. In fact, both teams have that at their disposal. I really like the conditioning that sAw did at the opening of the previous, or of this half, as a matter of fact, where they just walked straight into B with 3 members. I'm not sure how many in the death cam was seen, but that's always going to fill your head with a little bit of doubt when you're on the Apeks side. Should we even bother going towards B? We might just get blindsided again, and, well, Dennis, he's the sole member so far to fall. Might be a rifle on the cards.
2 rounds in a row, Dennis falling to the pistols. Shouldn't be too much of a difference maker. sAw do have a very deep strat book, especially on a map like Vertigo where you can play those gimmicky plays. We saw it towards the sandbags. Those Molotovs go through every time, catching out Kreese twice in a row. This time he can kind of fall back and try and abuse that angle himself. They're on the T side. 6-13, score closing.
Not much of a fan of sAw actually taking that particular fight. He wanted to kill Freddy Frog, who only was dropped to 6 HP, of course, so he was not so far away from actually doing it. But the problem with that is that you lose out on so much utility when you've got to rebuy in this scenario. sAw do it, but their utility can be bled if Apeks want a slower style. Right now, Freddy Frog's firing back. Takes out Rome through the smoke.
That's beautiful. He barely had any information there. Obviously, you hear a couple of M4 shots popped off, but you don't know the exact particular angle. Now they can play with this one-man advantage. It's something that we seldom saw for Apeks in that first half. Molotovs. Won't be forcing anybody out this time, Pronogo. But this boost could. One that we don't often see here. I'd love to catch what they're doing right now. Let's flick over there, because that looked interesting. Looks like they've dismounted it already. A minute on the clock. And do Apeks have a couple of tricks up their sleeve? That's the question that I'm asking myself right now. Because that looked very creative. Looked also towards the Xbox position, which is really one of the only viable angles that you can hold on this A-bomb site. Definitely could be a difference maker in this map if they can get it mounted, especially with an AWP. We'll see. Molotovs don't actually pop. The nade does drop. Quick damage. Arky straight through the smoke with 1. Should allow the bomb to go down here as Freddy Frog taps those digits in. This will be a quick retake for sAw. An attempt at least. They get completely shut out at the door. 2 quick kills, and this one's over. It's save time.
2 quick kills, and Gruss gets his second, as a matter of fact. He's back on the board, ladies and gents. And of course, Apeks are as well, stringing together yet another round. sAw didn't have the utility to properly retake in that scenario, so they needed to play those forward positions, and they are super fortunate that some of those Molotovs were whiffed by Apeks. Otherwise, that would have been even more disastrous than it ended up being. So, sAw falling behind a little bit, leaving something of a comeback potential for this Apeks T side, who maybe are not as unprepared as we expected coming into Vertigo with their creative boosts and their little tricks up their sleeves. We'll have to see what they want to do when they pull out into the 6th round of this half. Relaxa, he's got the sniper rifle. We didn't see that at all on the T side when sAw were running things. But Apeks do things a little bit differently. Let's see where Relaxa wants to migrate and move around. It's just going to be some upgraded pistols for the non-surviving members of sAw. A couple Deagles and that CZ. Very limited utility here. Not very much invested, as a matter of fact. But some very big pushes from Arky.
They obviously feel like they need to take a risk, Pronogo. They probably don't, considering they're 6 rounds ahead. He gets punished instantly. Kree's lost no damage in that engagement. I guess they only have the pistols in this one, so taking a risk definitely makes sense. They've got enough money to buy into the next. This is a half investment, of course.
Hurts to lose your M4 in such a situation, though, and now Krees will make sure that that rifle does not get recovered. Even more painful. Salt in the wound. Apeks trying to make sAw suffer a death of 1,000 cuts. Splitting the map a little bit here, but just has the angle.
I thought he was trying to throw that rifle right into the dumpster.
It's where the M4 belongs.
Of course. The M4A1S. The more dominant rifle, of course, Pronogo.
It's the thinking man's rifle on the CT side, and Apeks certainly have done their thinking on the T side. Making Just bleed the last of his utility. Expended it on this B site so far. Exec coming in.
It's Just to receive. Quick headshot. That's what he needed. The repeat comes through with the assistance of Muteris. Heavy damage done by the pistols. And that's where the CZ plays its best Counter-Strike. Just hitting headshots opens up space for the M4A4 to find even more. Just has the angles. Quick kill. And Krees needs to punish. He does. 4 kills for him. And that is Apeks continuing their swing in.
He even recovers the AWP, and Krees now on 20 frags. Wow, he's a statement player of his own on this Apeks roster. Yeah, they get their 8th as well. Timeout coming out, almost certainly called by sAw at this point. And Just has brought out the AWP, bordering on 20 kills himself, 19 right now. He's been the star player for sAw in this particular round. Maybe not who we expected, given Stadodo's sublime performances in the past. Pretty much everybody is doing their due diligence on the CT side right now, but Apeks have been able to string together a couple of rounds, and we're within talking distance about some sort of comeback. Seemed unthinkable at the start of this half. But we get into the 7th of the 2nd. Relaxa still not really able to properly make use of that sniper rifle in the previous round, but sAw have to alter their playbook because they certainly heard it rattle off a few shots early. That might be going towards A in this one.
You've got to remember, previous 3 months, sAw hasn't played a lot of Counter-Strike. They played Vertigo 3 times, twice getting smashed on it. Movistar Riders and Virtus Pro both taking wins. And Apeks, if they can continue this run of form, then they can certainly do so as well. Stad catches him out. Dennis didn't check that angle. There was no Molotov in towards the sandbags. So that punishment approach, and the smokes are going to completely block them off. There's no attempt to even re-peek. There's no attempt to trade. There's no possibility of that either. Smokes further go down and spraying right through them. Another bit of damage dealt. Relaxa to 62. And Stad wants to double down on this aggression. He's got a perfect angle. Can play around this one. Got support of Muteris as well. An AK-47 retrieved. They're still going.
This is a scrappy fight.
Certainly is. I don't know if they want to take these further peaks. This is a 5 versus 3, and we saw Apeks make the same mistake earlier. Now it's down to the M4 to try and double down on this aggression. He does and trades evenly. That's good enough. If you can do that 2 more times, it will be the 14th. Stad wants to take even further peaks, and Relaxa just hasn't been hitting those key shots. Just certainly does. It's 14.
That's a dominant round as well from the CT defenders. Really their first proper dominant one so far on this half, and well, they managed to squeak away with the pistol, and since there it had gone belly up, but CTs change things up. They managed to hold A. Apeks might be considering going back to B, where they found a little bit of their more recent success, especially after losing the money necessary to pull out that AWP. Relax actually choosing not to invest into that one in this round. Still in search of double digits on the T side. 3 members towards the B area. That's where Just is playing with the sniper, so when that cracks off some shots, they may think twice about contending.
He's got the support of Arky, M4. Lots of time to be played here. Apeks don't need to force the issue. If they don't, sAw can very easily rotate in this scenario, especially if Arky's going to radio in that information and Rome doesn't spot anything out on the A-bomb site. Usually, you'll be peppered with flashes at this point, so they need to wrap in that rotate fast. Quick kills from Arky. He's playing close to the smoke, and further headshots does the damage. This has been a shutdown. Relaxer can't get anything done. Map points to ensue.
Apeks are staring down the barrel of quite a few rounds here if they want to get us to OT. That would be 7 in a row, and the money does not look too hot for them either. Relaxa can invest into the sniper rifle, but there are going to be some concessions, and they've got to decide if they want to lose out on utility or lose out on rifles. It looks like Kreese will be rocking the MAC-10, maybe charging in. Even then, he doesn't have that much utility. Not so many nades here. Relaxa will break out the sniper rifle, and it's all on this round, all or nothing.
Certainly is. Rome takes the aggressive swing. There's an AWP to await his presence. Relaxer hasn't been hitting a lot of these key shots, and Gross is just checking all of the wrong angles. They knew there was presence on ramp, an unforced error, a mistake that might cost them this map.
Yeah, Gross has had such a rough opener to this series. Only scoring very, very low single-digit kills, as a matter of fact. Can't be overstated how impactful another couple of frags would have been in some of these closer rounds. It's anybody's guess at that point, but Apeks got it all to consider if they want to win this one, and win it with inferior weaponry as well.
Certainly so. sAw playing this one very passive. Yes, Apeks knows that there's presence towards the sandbags, but how are they going to even think about managing to flush Rome out? They don't. He swings into the open. It's an absolute bloodbath, and Relaxer even giving away sound cues through the smoke grenades and gives away his face to Rome. It's 16, and, well, that's the map over, Pronogo. Dust 2 to come next, and Apeks, they've got to show us a more dominant performance.
Apeks absolutely have to fire back on Dust 2. It's their map pick. They can shake off the very, very rough opening that we saw for this particular map. And even though they did get a little bit of momentum coming into that second half on the T side, where it's a little bit easier to chain together rounds with a lot of buys, and they did show us they could abuse the fact that maybe sAw does lackadaisically purchase a little bit less utility than you would expect, but it wasn't enough at the end of the day to even get them up towards double digits, and that 16-8 scoreline will 100% come back to haunt them if they're not able to correct the record going into Dust 2, which I fully expect they have the potential to. They did pick it, so they've got to show us what they're really made of here.
As we say about Apeks, they're very hot and cold, and we saw that in that particular map, right, where that T side looked a little bit better, but when you go down 12-3 incredibly quickly, there's really no way back, especially when the pistol round doesn't even go your way. Those kind of 13-3 setups, that's pretty much when you say bye-bye to the map and then think about Dust 2. I think that's where their mind will be right now. Remember, the recently rejuvenated Premier setup, it's all the best of threes here for the group stages, so we've got a lot more to come after the break.
Yes, nice shot, my friend.
Cheaters ruining your plays?
I have eyes on the enemy.
Bad servers stopping your shots? What you need is ESEA. Advanced anti-cheat to stop cheaters. And the best servers around, all with 128 tick rate. ESEA, the best way to play CSGO.
It's hard, you know. I just wish someone on my team would have told me. Apparently, I'm really not that good with this thing. Also, I die way too often in apartments, seem to never have enough money on buy rounds, and flashed 4 teammates just yesterday. Wait, what? I didn't.
You did, Sean.
Oh. But I'm much better with the 5.7 than you are, Elias. And I got 34 entry kills last week. And I should actually be playing B-site. I'm much more useful over there.
What grade did you get this week?
I got a C. That's not too bad, right?
Let's go.
Nope. Gotta go. If you want to know what you're good at, and, well, also what you suck at, check out csgohub.com. Coming!
Be someone and never fall behind again. Just keep on moving on. Never look down. Never fade out. Never fade out.
We're stuck in your car on a Friday night. And we laugh over stuff we try not to talk about. Still your smile keep on heating up the climate. And all the blood to my cheeks are rushing out, yeah, yeah. And by accident, you're getting closer. Oh, can you tell me something, tell me something? Is it a wild shot of letting you know that you're the topic of all of my thoughts, yeah. 'Cause I'm so sick of this friend zone. Differently. Whatever it is, it just feels so real. And your eyes keep on talking in the silence. And all the blood to my cheeks are rushing now, yeah, yeah. And I'm hoping you are getting closer. Oh, can you tell me something, tell me something? Is it a wild shot of letting you know that you're the topic of all of my thoughts, yeah. And that I'm sick of this friend zone. Well, can you tell me something, tell me something? Well, can you tell me something, tell me something? Well, can you tell me something, tell me something? 'Cause I'm so sick of this friend zone.
them watching from Paris to Poppy, yeah. With this music was lurking, now I'm attacking. Now with the chatting, I just step up and make it happen. It's a lifestyle. Living young and restless, yeah, we quite wild. If I want it, I'ma get it talking right now. And I ain't got no regrets, it's my time now. Lights out when you see us talking moves. You don't know that's the topic. And if you talking juice, well then you know I got it. Then you know I got it. Nobody got it like me. You know. They can try, but can do it like Vinny. Yeah, no permission. I got it.
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixes cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing the light, holding on for life. Holding on for life, feeding the high, chasing the night, chasing the night. Hotel rooms and city squares, champagne bottles, drum and snare. The sights and cities seem to fall away when you stay. Locked in love for a night or two, losing sleep just to get off you. Day to day you wanna stay out, you're chasing the light, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the night, chasing the night, chasing the night.
call my bluff for the last time. This ain't a song, it's a battle cry. No life. I see the clue between the strobe lights. I'm haunted, black face, hey, follow me around, okay, black face, hey, follow me around, okay, used to want it back.
Well, we're back into this one, Pronogo. ESEA Premier, it kicked off 3 weeks ago. Apeks versus sAw. sAw 1-0 up after a very convincing win there on Vertigo.
Absolutely the case. Korea's on the CT side now. Apeks, of course, starting on that one here with their map pick. Oh, he almost dropped both of his flashbangs and his kit there. Looks like it will be an A hit. Relaxa to receive so far. 2 more members left.
And this looks dangerous. 2 USPSs await this aggression. Bomb lucky not to fall down towards the CT spawn, leaving it all down to Arky. Yes, he can salvage the C4, but Apeks still have 3 players remaining, and even Kree's low on HP. Usually going for headshots with the pistols, so it's not as big of an advantage as it would ordinarily be, and that's exactly why. Quick shot, 1-0 Apeks.
You love to see Korea's on the board nice and early, as well as the CT side of Apeks, who picked this map, remember? Korea's was definitely Apex's star player when they went on to Vertigo. Of course, it was a disappointing loss, 16-8, but we have to see what sAw have in store for us on the storied Dust 2. Certainly the longest standing map so far. Looks like they have their protocols in place. No bomb plant means it'll just be a couple of deagles for the T's. We do have the scout on Arky, the sole outlier. Flashbang and smoke. Plenty of smokes, in fact, so they can split pretty much anywhere they want to go. There are 3 members of Apeks towards this A bomb site, 1 towards long. That's Gruss, who had a very disappointing performance on Vertigo. He'll need to activate here, but all the players of sAw are on Cat right now. He might not get much of a chance to contest.
Not behind these smokes. So we're going to pop in the flashbang as well. There's another smoke towards the CT spawn. And with the minute 10, the scout has been outmaneuvered in this scenario, leaving it all down to the AUG. Quick shot, a secondary follow-up headshot to do damage, no frag onto Rome. And now they have to try and get this C4 down and away. Should be an easy task, considering Apeks has been relegated to a long. And with that C4 away, now the AWP can come into play. Quick shot just. I would throw that back over to somebody else, but nobody actually has the Kevlar, so the aim punch will be the issue anyway. They're finding the kills regardless, and over on the cross, Rome might even have a chance to nail another one. This is brutal. 1-1 likely to ensue. Apeks, how do they get back onto this one? They don't really want to save the MP9 Scout combination. Not always as powerful as you would ordinarily expect. But with the smoke away, Gruss will dive on the defuse. Won't work out for him. Relaxa now needs to maybe even prioritize saving the sniper. It's the less powerful variety, and sAw have taken advantage of it.
The silver lining here for Apeks is that Just does fall, so the AUG is not salvaged, but that is such a brutal round to lose if you're on the CT side. You had 3 members towards the A bomb site, but that cat work was beautiful coming out from the T's. And of course, they get the bomb plant down, those pistols doing the damage that needed to be done. The AUG dropping in such a scenario is so rough for retakes because, of course, it has that defender's scoped advantage. It's just going to be deagles and a couple of smokes for Gruss. That's it for Apeks, and well, they need to figure out where sAw are coming from. It looks like it's yet another A hit, but there are not that many members here to receive. Should be a second on the board for the T's.
Certainly unprepared. Loads of time and already long control. Usually stemic of a pretty easy round on the board. sAw taking this one slowly. We saw this on Vertigo, Pronogo. Very easy stuff to creep and crawl for the map control. They love to vary up the pace. And with the smokes in Apex's face, I'll be playing this one up close and personal. Those Molotovs definitely going to force players out of position. It's the Desert Eagle out in the open of Gruss to try and do some damage, but he had an absolutely appalling map 1. Especially in that first half where he's only able to merit a single frag. Here come the rifles, and no success for Gruss on the bounce. Quick kill. sAw just holding the angles for even more. And Just is certainly going to find it. That gives the avenue to plant this bomb. Looking very convincing against the pistols once again. We talked before, Pronogo, about these Deagles being some of the most deadly weapons in Apex's hand. That hasn't been the case this series.
Yeah, sAw have done a great job of neutralizing the angles that you can take on Dust 2 and on Vertigo with those Deagles. We're seeing that come to fruition right now with Apeks falling so early on, and they just don't have the utility to flash themselves back into the site or to hold their position as much as possible. Bearing that in mind, it is still just a Deagle round, so you have to keep that in mind when you're coming into this one. Apeks shouldn't have their confidence shaken just yet, but they are staring down the barrel of a 0-1 map start in this series, with sAw being the favorites. Any lead that sAw get are probably going to be capitalized on. You just have to believe that even if you are Apeks, you can contend with them despite being the underdog. We need to see more rounds when they do have that weaponry disadvantage if they're going to come out ahead on the series. And so far, as you said, we just haven't seen that too much. So Freddy Frog, the sole member of Armor there on Apeks. And he will be joined by a P250 on Kreese, the only investment into this round proper. Everything else just saved over. So looks like it will be a nice clean third for sAw, unless things get a little hairy from Freddy's Peaks.
Well, they won't. He's dismantled. Deagle retrieved, but that's the body armor eliminated. The only set that Apeks carried into the server. And this should be just an absolute bust up towards the middle of the map. You see those doors getting peppered. Gruss really hasn't had a good time this series. sAw have had his number since the start. Just another one. And, well, this B-bomb site should certainly crumble. A kill actually responded back. Gives away that AK. That's where things get
that's
a
what we
little
need to
bit
see
hairy.
coming out from Apeks here. If they can get a little bit of economic damage and crucially survive with both of the members here with rifles, that would be the dream. Doesn't look likely with Dennis being zoned in here, though.
Certainly doesn't. Quick headshot. A-site falls, and I guess Relaxer will decide to save this AK-47.
Hey, he recovered a Molotov as well. That might be useful going into the next. Of course, Apeks did have utility woes on their CT side of Vertigo, so not quite what you wanted to see necessarily. And, well, Relaxa will not bring that AK-47 Muterus, killing them with that inferior T rifle. Not what you always see, but sAw are just feeling it. We saw all of the different frags they were able to net together in the previous map of Vertigo. Definitely something that you got to be aware of on Dust 2, which does have that reputation as being a bit more of a frag-heavy map. Apeks with their first proper rifle investment, and Gruss, the sole sort of compromise with that FAMAS. He's going to be playing towards this long position, and bearing that in mind, well, he's actually rotated out towards mid. Hard to hold any angle solo with just a FAMAS, but he does have enough utility to slow sAw down if they do want to exec in their trademark style of, you know, trying to bleed your opponents of all that utility. We saw that on Vertigo, of course, and we need to see more of it if the Portuguese players want to continue their show of dominance and their show of form.
There was an opportunity to salvage an AK into this one. Without those peaks towards the middle of the map, it was almost a guarantee with sAw not deciding to go for the hunt whatsoever. Their money hasn't been built up just yet. The only time we saw them hunt on Vertigo, it was towards that later round scenario. Really late in the half when they already had the cash built up and it was just a gimme. Exactly at that point, Molotovs towards the B-bomb site. Looks to be setting up for the split. Just the sole player towards this upper B-Tun's position. And Kreese really needs to shut him down. Usually you'd be pushing into tunnels at this point, so you don't get completely countered. 4 frags out of nowhere, and that middle of the map position has been completely compromised here. SRK trying to make the swing inwards. He gets his head blown off, and that should be the follow-up here. No opportunity for a bomb plant as sAw gets stuck.
That was a very unfortunate team kill coming out from Apeks, but they are able to close it. sAw, they played a little too slow and got caught out very early on towards that middle position. Of course, we also saw Kreese holding B. Even though he was spotted out a little bit early, he still had the precision with that M4A1S, that silenced rifle. Silenced his opponents with it. So, as we get into the 6th, plenty of rifles galore. Roam out nice and early towards long. This is the pressure we need sAw to be exerting again and again.
And it's a quick headshot to start things off. Apeks have been playing this long position with 3 players at the start of each and every single round. This time it works out for them. There's no HEs remaining to plunge into pit to take away the low HP player, but the smokes do that instead. Arky with 2, that evens up the numbers. And now they know there's another M4 stood out in the open, needs to bail towards the car position. That A-bomb site, yes, it's been fortified. The rotate's on the way. That's courtesy of Freddy Frog. And these smoke sprays are absolutely stunning. Startling. Dennis takes damage, down to 50. He wants to play the angle in the meantime with the support of the AK-47 holding back. They're going to spray him further. That doesn't do the damage. He knows the angle, but Muteris does too. Obviously radioed through. 50 seconds, and sAw are completely crowbarring this one apart. The AWP again, and Kreese, I guess he will swing, but it's into the sniper. And this is not the best scenario, not even the best weapon for the job. You probably want an AWP of your own along with a flashbang to aid the peak. He will go through this smoke, but that's a complete bait that Stato takes advantage of.
Yeah, Stadoto is not going to miss that kind of shot. He's been playing out of his mind so far. In fact, all of us really have. We saw Just Top fragging in the previous map, and it looked a little bit better for the CTs in that last round than maybe you might have expected, given the result that we ended up getting. sAw able to play that broken round scenario with Arky taking 2 nice and early into that. Very, very splendid play coming out from the Ts, and they've successfully conditioned Apeks to, even on these light investments where they just go for a couple of pistols, you're starting to see less and less long presence, which you normally don't see unless the CTs are equipped anyway. But, well, that's a bit of a whiffed Molotov there from Stadoto. But despite that, you still have to bear in mind, Apeks are trying to feel out the tendencies of sAw. Plenty of T rounds won in the previous map for the Portuguese squad. About to see even more, it looks like, if this weapon loadout is anything to go by.
Yeah, that Molotov certainly wasn't one from Muteris' strat book. Flashes over. sAw again targeting A. Could become predictable. And Apeks able to go for somewhat of a stack. It gets completely dismantled. 3 kills, bomb site falls. And here, once again, the Molotovs are going to hold them at bay. If there was anybody towards short, they don't want them peeking in sooner rather than later. Instead, they can just, well, hold these angles with the AK-47s. And again, it's through these smokes. They're going for wide swings and peaks. We know Freddy Frog can take advantage of these scenarios. There's no AK to be retrieved beside the CT spawn. He's trying to look upwards, get a vantage point on these positions, but instead it is Stato playing towards long. This is pretty much impossible to breach in, especially with the support of the AK.
Yeah, that's a beautiful post-round scenario from Muteris and company there. sAw managing to get that bomb down nice and early, get those early frags. And you said it earlier, those smoke sprays have been impeccable from this T side, not just on this map, but also in Vertigo. That's something that Apeks have to keep in mind. They break out the double up setup. We're going to see where they want to go. That's Dennis and Relaxa. Relaxa being the primary, of course. You see the sniper change owners a few times when there are 2 of them on the CT side for Apeks. See if Dennis can live up to his reputation as pinpoint accuracy prime. That's what he needs to be doing. And there's so low utility as well for the CT side. Just look at it. 1 full kit on Gruss, who had a little bit of extra cash to spare. Limited on Relaxa. Certainly no head armor. Not that that will play a factor. Now, sAw able to start building up their bank even further. They win this round, and they've got maybe 1 or 2 more buys in reserve.
It's the compromise that you have to make when you go for a double AWP setup this early in the half. Nade's pretty much gone at this point. 1 smoke, 1 incend. 1 minute. This will be towards short. Dennis will be challenged. AWP at the ready. Looking for those smokes to come pile driving on through. sAw obviously conserving them for this exact moment. They'll throw that molly in as well. The AK-47 actually wants to take an aggressive stance against Freddy Frog. Will they check this angle? That is the big question mark here. They don't. It's 2 kills guaranteed before getting traded. Fast frags, but an even trade. Bomb surely can now go down with the AWP prized away from the server. And Relaxa is going to have trouble getting into this one with a sniper rifle of his own. Stato always playing awkward angles to contest with, and Relaxa does get peaked. A mistake from Just, a rare one.
This is so dangerous coming out from Apeks. They can retake here. Relaxa taking the angle onto Stododo. If he neutralizes this, and he does, it's an easy retake coming out from the CTs. That was so tense as well because for a while you believed in sAw. Even though Freddy gets 2 frags in that upper position, it's almost not enough. They get the bomb plant down, so they guarantee a buy going into the next, but it will be a little bit rough around the edges because a number of those players are just sitting relatively low. You look at Rome, for example, only 2,500 to his name, so if they want to invest into this one, it'll be a bit of a compromise, and indeed, we already see some coming into fruition. A MAC-10, a Scout. That's what we have at our disposal here. Stododo will be taking the lesser sniper, taking aim towards that middle of the map, seeing if he can tag any members, and he does. Kreese just down to 71, though. It's not nearly as impactful as when it's an AWP.
An AWP can knock you down to 10 in that position.
sAw posturing for a very fast hit towards this B bomb site. They had a lot of mid presence just a second ago, but Arky's the one to take contact, and Gruss gets the better of him. 6 kills already in this map. Triple that of his performance on Vertigo already. Great sign.
Certainly is. That's Long completely locked down as well. It'll be a good vantage point if this bomb does go away for Apeks to go for the inevitable retake that will ensue. Double AWP's always tough and tricky. Remember, Stado's only got the scout, though. Wants to take the peeks towards Long. Apeks playing this one incredibly slowly, watching those flanks. They don't want to get caught by surprise. And that mistake won't come in this time. Dennis just watching the angles for any aggressive swings, the peaks. Maybe sAw feels a player down. They have to take a risk. And they do. It works out perfectly. Gruss, a great headshot. He falls. And Stat, another no-scope. He's going for even more. He's going for the highlight reel. Long is completely contested and countered. Freddy Frog needs to come in with this one, but the bomb is far too ticked, Pronogo. This will explode. The AWP salvage momentarily taken down, and Rome will just about survive. 6-3 sAw, around that they don't have any chance in winning. They maneuver right onto the bomb site and win it anyway.
Yeah, Stododo has no business getting all of those frags. That's impeccable work coming out from him on the scout. He makes it look like he had an op after all. The low HP players that he was taking aim at, the headshots he was hitting, absolutely beautiful coming out from him. And of course, he's able to make the round win a reality for sAw. They double the scoreline of their opponents, and they also bust up that economy a little bit further. A timeout's already been called. CTs need to figure out what they're made of here. Figure out what they're going to be buying, because they've got an AK, they've got an op, but the money's not good for a full investment around this.
There won't be that secondary AWP either, Pronogo. Something that Apeks has been relying on.
With Relaxa at least still maining that rifle himself. Deagle being dropped over as well. It looks like there will be plenty of concessions coming in here. They want to keep that utility up. That's a main concern here, and sAw have been able to bleed them dry with their slower style on some of these rounds. Obviously the last one an exception based on the limited utility, limited weapons that they had, but this one's a bit of a bonus. Oddly placed as the 10th round of the first half. You do see a scout and a Galil, or 2. Plenty of utility, though. They will be execing towards a very heavily stacked A site. Apeks should be able to get the better of them because sAw, unlikely to expect so many players.
Timings are so important on Dust 2, especially towards Long. You saw Arky actually leaving his rifle in T-spawn while he threw those nades, knowing if he went back for it, there wouldn't be the time to actually throw those nades in time. Minute left, and they've already taken the majority of this A bomb site. It is against a stack, and with the AWP holding ground, it will get naded out of position, but Relaxer in the open, and we know that sAw loves spraying away at these angles. Playing behind the smoke isn't the best cover, but he finds a shot anyway. Needs to hold this one down, perhaps not single-handedly, considering he's got so much support and a second shot. Relaxer finding even more as the AK-47 chips through for 2.
It looks like a big highlight reel for Relaxa, just a standing in place in that Gandalf position. sAw certainly were not passing, but despite getting 3 frags, that's still all about the call to stack that A bomb site. It works out for Apeks, a round that perhaps could be construed as a bit of a steal. sAw now back onto Deagles. They need to steal one back, of course. It's been a bit of a trade in that respect with both both of the previous rounds not going the way of the team you would expect. Just will fall nice and early. Relaxa staying unpredictable with his positioning. They did just catch him out there, maybe just expecting something to the effect of an op on A, a rifle on B. That is the more default setup, of course. So we're seeing some nice adaptations coming up from Apeks. They did pick this map, remember, and despite sAw being the favorites to take the whole series, you have to believe in the Nordic and Swedish roster a little bit more, especially after they've gotten so many steals. But right now, Rome cracking off a nice good shot onto Freddy Frog as a bit of a trade. Back to 4-on-4.
They have no idea that Mutris is playing around this corner. Could catch him off guard, but goes for the initial peek, and Dennis wraps up the lot. Only the Deagle to do some damage, and 2 kills. Acceptable, but nothing to celebrate.
Absolutely not. I mean, look at the money for the CTs. So much ballooning over there. It's starting to get out of control because of the nature of some of these round wins. And, of course, that partial investment that Apeks were able to steal a round away from with that stack. That was the big moneymaker for them just 2 rounds ago. And we get into the 12th. sAw look to be threatening the 6th round for their opponents at this point. Only a P250 and a Deagle invested. Nothing else. Nothing doing. That economic damage they inflicted in the last round simply doesn't matter in this.
Certainly doesn't. Fast frag, and this should just be the mop-up. Only blocks. You're not really even competitive in this one, and good discipline for Kreese to keep enough ammo in the barrel to finish off all 3. Apeks very convincing to level up the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to keep the M4A1S's ammo capacity in check. Valve thankfully buffing that up to 25 somewhat recently, so can thank Big Daddy Gaben for that one.
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. Tie game. sAw. They're staring down the barrel of a potential half lost. Certainly not something they're familiar with from the previous map. Apeks making a good argument. It's going to be 5 rifles for the T's. Sniper still for Relaxa, of course. And has not been ripped away from his arms just yet. sAw looking to change that. And right now, Gruss traded out immediately. Man advantage, sAw.
They've taken advantage of these scenarios so many times, but not with Dennis popping off. He finally gets traded. Lovely headshot, long range though. You know, stood out in the open. You're likely going to have to compete against an AWP. Not this time. There isn't one on the server, especially for sAw. They've not got that sniper rifle potential. Just Relaxa playing with that. The bomb is out in the open, so I'd have loved to see him hold the angle. Instead, Rome's able to snatch the C4, go back to the A bomb site, and it all falls apart elsewhere. Freddy Frog actually wants to go for this one. He's playing inside of elevator. And with that flash high in the sky, goes for the jump as well. Rome's got the angle, wants to find this frag. 30 bullets in the barrel, remember, for the M4A4, but Stad's got a very precarious angle once again, and that's a quick shot to find.
Those are some great flanks coming out of Stadoto. We love to see that. Manages to crack off a few. Catch a couple CTs playing a little bit fast and loose with their angles. Doesn't quite work out. And sAw taking the lead once again. Perhaps expected, but the money is good for Apeks to take another full buy here. Relaxa investing into that sniper. Dennis as well. We will see 2 again. This is where Apeks found a lot of footing in this opening half. Penultimate round on the cards. sAw looking to extend their lead, win a little bit more convincingly. But Apeks, they're already firing back.
They certainly are. Short control. A has been the play the majority of the time, Pronogo. It's been their favorite bomb site to target, and you can see why. They've had success, a much closer half to the one that we saw on Vertigo. Remember, it was a 13-3 start after taking 13-2 and then the resultant pistol. Not going to be the same case here on map 2. Dust 2. This will be the peak. That's off the back of a flashbang. Dennis actually with the team flash there. Definitely unfortunate. And with those smokes dissipating, they can maneuver into position to challenge another one of those rifles. Bomb down in the open. Dennis wants to defend. And against Stado's AWP, he's got the lion's share of the angle to try and hit this shot. Forced out of position into the smoke grenade. And Stado should not have any idea that Dennis is here. This is so damn sneaky. Another molly falls at the feet of Dennis. Forces him into the AWP. Maybe expecting expecting a pistol out and an easy fight for him to win. It wasn't. Relax the CT spawn. Wants to watch them on the cross, but all of that utility's been used, and he gets off the angle wrong moment, misses the shot as a response. It's only the tag, and that allows the bomb to go down. Stato taps those digits in, and an insend lands a little too late. Stat in the open, though. This definitely becomes precarious. His Mutarus burns alive. That is awkward.
It's an awkward end to the round, but it's a pretty nice set of utility coming out from Apeks. Sure, yeah, Kreese gets team flashed a little bit there. Dennis makes up for it, though. 2 very quick frags from his position towards that car long area, transitioning and bouncing very nicely between those angles. It's brilliant. We do have another timeout called, of course. Tie game again. Apeks much more convincing in this particular map compared to their slow start on Vertigo. It was over quick. This one looks to be giving us all the rounds. We'll see only one team win by 1 round in the first half. Going into the next, you have to wonder whose game really is it. sAw being stalled out a little bit so far. This is a bit of a tech pause as well. One player has indeed disconnected just a bit, but we do have plenty of cash coming out from the tees. So even if there's a bit of a concession here and there, we should be able to see a decent amount of money afforded into those weapons and those utilities. This should be a proper round of Counter-Strike to close out our half.
Yeah, we've got to remember that Apeks really hasn't played a lot of Counter-Strike this year. They played Premier, but the last time they actually played was in late 2020, so not really much on the record as of late. Whereas sAw, you could say the same, but December was a big month for them where they pretty much dominated a lot of the online competition, taking center stage in a lot of these middle-of-the-road tournaments. 7-7, Apeks, you would expect a more powerful performance on a map like Dust 2, considering they're playing the CT side, they've been gifted that double AWP setup. It's not really been countered by sAw.
And remember that with sAw playing so much more somewhat recently and being around for much longer as a together lineup, it's a lot more film and a lot more value you can get from downloading a team like that. Whereas Apeks, with the recent roster changes in the past couple months, more likely that they've changed up their system or reinvented some setup and created some sort of precarious back pocket position where, like we saw on the boost on Vertigo, didn't come to fruition there, but they've clearly been doing some prep work, and it's a lot easier to do against a team with more games logged together. And that's exactly the case for sAw, less so for Apeks, as you mentioned. So we should be able to see perhaps an interesting reinvigorated T side coming out from Apeks when we switch over to the next half. Still certainly anybody's game, no matter who wins it.
We've got to remember that that's Polly's role. With the captain's hat on, in that coach position, he's going to be the man digging through the demos, looking at what sAw is doing, especially on a map like Dust 2 that you know that you'll be playing. sAw are never going to ban it. So in a series like this, Apeks are always going to pick it. You can prepare. They obviously come with a pretty standard style. I've got to say that this looks very reminiscent of the old Apeks roster that we did see, playing those double AWPs. It's a very Swedish way of playing Dust 2 at this level of play, and it works out. If your economy doesn't completely crumble, you're able to get that double AWP in play the majority of the time, and sAw are going to find that hard to compete with. They certainly have done this map.
It's in stark contrast to what we saw on Vertigo, where the double ops were almost too easily, in fact, neutralized by the sAw T side. Wasn't able to find much footing. Very different story on Dust 2. Interesting corollary, though, is that you did mention sAw really love A. I guess every team loves A on Vertigo, but funny that that has been a narrative going between the two maps. Guess that capital A is in their name for a reason.
They think they're Canadian. Eh?
A. I'm going to say, I don't have a pun for B, unfortunately, so maybe we can just say curly letter.
Yeah, we could say that.
Question then becomes, what are sAw's adaptations on the CT side? Apeks did have fleeting success on the T side of Vertigo. Might be translatable into this one, but we simply haven't seen as much from sAw, at least on the CT side of Dust 2 specifically. So that's a bit of a black box, and certainly one that's, I think, of high interest when you go into the second half of this map.
We've also got to say, sAw have played Dust 2 a lot recently. They played it today against Fun Plus Phoenix. They took 13 rounds in that one. They ended up going on and winning the whole tournament.
FBX not a team to be trifled with, that's for sure. Looks like freeze time has been canceled as Arky has rejoined his roster. Spaniard out missing. Had to go for a quick bathroom break, maybe. We'll see an investment, as I mentioned earlier. Round number 15 here for us is a little bit hairy for the sAw team, the T side. Deagle and a Galil, but Stadoto on the AWP, and it's long control again. They're pushing for A.
Yeah, it's all about long. Russ playing on the offset of this smoke. Quick kill. Does take 99 damage, and here come the nades, bouncing inside. Arky lucky to get away with his life, and only has the Deagle to play, remember, so looking for a headshot as that smoke falls. Also looking for that AK-47, which she's able to scramble away with. Remember, that means that sAw have only realistically lost one player, but it's with the pistol. They've been able to grab hold of that primary weapon. Maybe using it for this short execute. There is an AWP awaiting. Relaxer by Car. Here comes the peek. There's the swing. Roam first to fall. There wasn't a smoke to counter away the sniper rifle. And now as they plunge their way onto the A-bomb site, yes, it's with the two-man disadvantage. And Apeks play these retakes incredibly slowly. We've seen it so many times here in this very map. They're just holding the long control, waiting for any of these sAw flanks. They won't come through this time. Their depreciation of players means that they just have to hold the bomb site instead. The main vantage point, it's that CT spawn. You don't often see that. Stato, quick shot, and he even goes for the follow-up onto ramp. Freddy Frog needs to swing it. He does actually circumnavigate the AWP, and a startling shot to take away Stad only just remains. He's been outmaneuvered and cannot prevent that defuse. It's already happening. He gets taken down. It's Apeks 8.
Yeah, how else would you like to finish that half off? So competitive down to the wire, but with those kits, with all that money, there was no question Apeks had that defuse when they assembled onto that site. Now sAw down by 1 round. It's not a huge lead, but if Apeks have anything to say about it, there's going to be an extension. We might see a third map after all here, Squid.
We certainly could. That'd be Train, remember? So, though, I would still say the favorites in Dust 2, albeit slim favorites, unable to take a dominant T-side. Obviously, we saw a lot of long control. That strat book didn't seem as deep as it did on Vertigo. We saw them playing the same sort of tactic time and time again with limited success. Those AWPs really ripping them apart. Dennis as well, key member in that half as we switch on to the second.
Yeah, it's Apeks on the T side now. They are going to be calling the shots. They're running things on Dust 2. Let's see if they run them into the ground or get us sky high. Obviously, we know which one it was on Vertigo. sAw taking that one. Nice quick stack towards mid early on for the CTs. Certainly no upgrades or anything of the sort, but we do have a kit and 2 flashes on Stadoto. Everybody else, Kevlar. Rome up so aggressive towards barrels right now.
It looked like Apeks were aware that this was happening, but Rome with quick headshots and Mutris also joining the party eliminates 3, and Apeks now down on numbers. Rome and Mutris down on HP, 10 and 13. Mid control already taken. Dennis has switched to his favorite pistol, the USPS. He's infamous with it.
He needs to live up to something of that reputation now. 2 on 4. Uterus low, Rome low, but Rome so early, so quick on the swing. Dennis does one better. 2 on 3 now, and the hit is going to A. Plenty of members available for sAw to retake, or simply to rotate and cut off the bomb on Cat.
But it is all down to Dennis once again. That USPS will take the vantage point towards the CT spawn off the back of the flashbang when nobody is peeking for sAw. They don't want to go too aggressive in this effort. They'll allow the bomb to go down as a response. It came from short, so they couldn't prevent it from watching from CT. Arky quick shot, and it is all down to Kreese. He hasn't got that USP in hand, so he has to take it at close range with the Glock 18. He hasn't taken any damage, so over on ramp, Arky needs to nail this one right now. Relegated to a single point of health. Needs a headshot. Kreese not connecting, and this gets awkward. He's got the kit, but Kreese has the headshot.
Absolutely. 3 kills for him in that round. Kreese Doing it all. We sung Dennis's praises, but Kreese was able to pull it out after the fact. That was such a disadvantaged situation for Apeks. They somehow are able to pull it back from a 2-on-4. Plant the bomb, Saw gamble the wrong way. The rotation's a little too slow and a little too disjointed. It's going to relegate them onto 2 scouts, an MP9, and 2 deagles for the CT side here. Our favorites for this particular matchup now down by 2 rounds. And Apeks, MAC-10, scout, one of which just sounded off on the opposing side. Freddy Frog down. That was one of the AKs.
That is so devastating as well, to lose a rifle like that in the early portions. Apeks has to take control elsewhere. The middle of the map seems to be the approach, where they even up and even do some further damage. That was a 1 versus 3 from Kreese, remember. We talked about him a lot on Vertigo, where he surpassed 20.
Yeah, he's just so good. He's going to have to do it again here on the T side of Dust 2. We initially thought that Apeks would be able to take this one and get to double digits nice and early in this half, but Saw making a convincing counter argument with their double scout investment. Certainly working out so far.
Flirting towards the B bomb site with nades. Now that Desert Eagle spotted towards the middle of the map, tagged down to 42. Sent towards the CT spawn, where he's low HP. One of the 2 defenders on A. Yes, it's still Mutris's Scout at the ready. There's not a single AWP on the entire server. Apeks now want to make this approach. It's against some of the deadliest weapons in the game. Desert Eagle sounding off. There's another shot from Mutris. He's been doing everything on the CT side. Kreese trying to approach and encroach. And Mutris just a whisker away from nailing that one. He doesn't miss twice. You can't give him opportunities because he will take them.
Yeah, and Saw taking the 8th there. That's an incredible retake, an answer on after Apeks take the pistol. So precarious so far. We've seen this time and time again. When a team that loses the pistol answers back. I think it's 3 pistol rounds out of 4 so far that's happened in this series alone. Apeks not able to convert means Saw upgrade. They steal away 2 AKs, and they keep the 2 scouts in play as well. Just pistols now for the T side and very limited utility. Kreese fancies this opportunity, but he's brought down to 33 health and suicide.
So painful. Affects the mindset when you lose a round like that. And it's one of the few pistol rounds that Apeks were able to take, and those conversions actually just put you dead in the lead. It would have been a 10-7 scoreline with Saw no money. 11-7 pretty much a guarantee at that point. A totally different game. Continue, and heavy damage has already been dealt towards Long. Mutris, he's on a tear, wants to actually bin the scout, remember. He was the key player in the previous. Dennis fast headshot, and there's even more on the cards. Arky trying to hold it away, and he still needs a secondary shot as Mutris has been tagged down low HP. Flash high, bomb planted, and Saw wants to retake this one speedily. The scout heading onto this ramp, and the pistol there to punish. Relaxer up close, evens up the numbers. The HP fairly standard as well. Leaves the rifles looking for these longer distance engagements. It's back and forth until the end for just to finish once again.
So low HP on the remaining players for Saw there. You definitely believe in Apeks, especially since they were able to get the bomb down in that hectic mid-round. I have to highlight Freddy Frog occupying so much time and space towards Long. He took so long to finally fall down. Saw only barely able to scrape away. Almost got the kill, in fact, and that's one of the main reasons why the HP was so compromised. So Apeks make a convincing counter argument there, but it is answered back by Saw, who live with 2 players into the next round. Op invested by Stododo. He's breaking that out so far quite often on this CT side. The reliable man for Saw. And now it's Apeks answering back with just a scrappy buy of 2 deagles. Barely a buy, as a matter of fact. No utility. They're going to try to do some economic damage and keep their opponent's economy in check. It's pretty much all they can hope for, because this round will be double digits for Saw, almost guaranteed.
Certainly should be. That economic seesaw has firmly tilted one way, Saw's favor. They've won it. Puts them in the lead. CT side, hard to contend with. And that nade also. They were all gathered on that corner towards Long, so it does almost 100 cumulative damage with Kreese holding inside the underpass. Not really what you want. A minute 5. Clock ticking. 1 minute. Apeks really only just going for kills in this one. They can do some eco damage. They can keep the money low once again. That'll definitely a prime target as they plunge. It is sAw to clean up. Only 1 frag found. It's of course from Dennis, but sAw secure the 10.
It's not much of a takeaway, but Kreese has been playing so well. Surely he's the one who should be getting the Deagle upgrade in a round like that. Instead, sticking to the Glock. I know he got 3 kills with it last time, but you can't expect that every round, especially against head-armored opponents. sAw now able to get their bank up there. Yes, Arky falls, and of course he will be relatively low in the money, but still a full investment coming out here from both teams. Relaxa getting that sniper rifle out as well, but not able to contend with Stododo, who is, of course, still holding things down towards A.
Certainly is. Even by both teams. Always scary when you see AKs on sAw, on the CTs in general. Standard Xbox smoke. I call that the Xbox One.
Well, it's less confusing than Microsoft's naming conventions. You got that going for you.
Apeks playing very quietly. They've taken all of long without sAw really being hyper-aware. They only have Muteris to hold away the angle. M4 at the ready. And, well, here they come. He needs to take the swing. Fast kill does get traded. And the A bomb site trading evenly. Allows the AWP the space to find another one. It's relaxed towards the CT spawn to get even more intel. That should be a bait for Stado to take the peak. Does, but it's a little late. The AWP is gone. Apeks already with the bomb.
This is rough if you're sAw trying to retake here. You want to keep your money in good standing? Well, that objective's already failed. $1,000 on Rome, $1,650 on Arky. It's just not looking too hot. So Justin Stododo will be saving these rifles, but it won't be a complete buy into the next. We have a tie game on our hands yet again. Apeks answering back with Freddy Frog on 2 quick frags himself. Relaxa guaranteeing the round with that last AWP pick. Bomb will be exploding. And Apeks will be answering with a 10th. So, both teams now 6 away from either getting us to a new map or taking the series in totality. We do have a FAMAS by Arky. That is, of course, going to be the concession based on the money. Still plenty of utility. They can answer back. They can play pretty much any setup they want. sAw, of course, very disciplined with their utility usage. Won't be throwing it away for no reason. Apeks will need to work to bleed them dry. But it won't be an A hit this time around. We're going to see Just tested on the B site. 4 members so far from Apeks already taking a stand in the tunnels.
This game has been so back and forth. The first map, not so much. Dust 2 certainly has been 10-10. It feels like we've been even Steven since the start. And Apeks finally changes it up. Pronogo, the B bomb site, first time. Smokes go away. We've not seen a split like this. Dennis, just the floating voter towards the middle of the map. I'll be keeping this one quiet until these smokes and flashbangs pop on through. Roma reload. They could actually play that timing there where as he's getting the reload in, that's when you take the swing. But another smoke placed and Apeks slow to a halt once again. But the game plan not communicated, but certainly to us on the minimap, we know what their game plan is in this one. They know exactly what they want to do. It's towards the B bomb site guarantee. And here comes the flashes over the top. Relaxa going to be the first man to take this avenue inwards. A quick swing from Just. Sees those flashes and takes the initiative. It's perfect. As the mollies fire through, Apeks doesn't have the intel as to where he's playing from. They need to take this kill now, and they do with the support of the flashbang. Quick kills, Rome to fall, only finds 1, and the B bomb site has fallen, and Dennis is the thorn in their side from behind. This is painful. The FAMAS comes through, but low HP on both players. Looks impossible for sAw, but they still want to go for it anyway. Missed shots gives Freddy Frog the opportunity, and with the nade over the top not connecting with too much, Arky needs to play this one with the AWP and likely backtrack to save to the next.
That was such an intense take. You saw opening them up there, but Apeks able to answer back, and that B site notorious for being so difficult to hold. Flashbang looked good. Freddy caught unaware, but able to control the spray and wait for that whiteness to fade. He was able to answer back on off of a missed spray by sAw. That will be an 11th. Apeks taking the lead again, keeping us in this series, keeping us competitive. We go into the next, and well, I don't fancy sAw's buy whatsoever. 2K average on every player. Arky, the sole member to stay alive with that sniper, so they can try to invest around this, but it won't be very nice. They may choose to simply play this one out with the hero sniper, so to speak, and that's exactly what they do. Not a dollar invested. Not even any bit of utility here. They need to frag out, maybe gamble correctly with a stack. Apeks, some missed utility might help their opponents there, but it definitely looks like they're going to take this one nice and easy.
Yeah, it looks very standard to me from sAw. Maybe even looking to save the AWP into the next if it all goes wrong towards the middle of the map. Instead, Arky swings and he wants to double dip. 2 kills evens up the numbers, but certainly not the case considering there are only pistols to be played on the other 2 members. Arky blind shot, and this now becomes possible. That up the wing condition, and the pistol in a prime position to punish. The bomb drops, another sniper given away, and this has fallen at the seams as we might go level again. Only Freddy Frog remains. A lack of Kevlar becomes the only way back in, but that bomb is in the worst possible place. It's out in the open, it's on the pedestal. And how does he get back into this one? I think the answer is he doesn't. He is stuck on B right now, and the double AWPs should be able to completely rip him out of the server. Even this cross could be done. Stato gives away his life, but he has to challenge the 2 snipers and rely on them missing some shots. How does he get into this? Both angles covered. sAw have it. Maybe this has to be a pre-fire, a bait peek, the switch. Arky, he's got the angle towards mid-double doors. And realistically, Freddy Frog needs to grab that bomb that can't. Takes the swing. Arky takes the frag. That's a 4K for him.
A 4K for Arky, and just an impossible situation for Freddy. That is so difficult. He tries to slow things down and instill some uncertainty into the sAw players, but despite Stadoto going down so early, that's just not going to happen. Disciplined. And you can see Apex's protocol starting to fall apart in those precarious mid-round scenarios, almost like in the back of their heads, they're just chanting, don't get ecoed, don't get ecoed. And, well, that's exactly what happened there with the sole rifle being the AWP, and not a single bit of utility invested either. Now we get into the next round. It will be a bit of a compromise coming in with a MAC-10 and a Tech-9 on the Apeks side. Everybody else on rifles. Plenty of utility to exec onto this B bomb site, which seems to be the target of the tease. sAw, only 2 members here. Traditional hold. Plenty of map control gained on the other side of the map, of course. We've got long on lockdown. So it will need to be a very convincing hit. Any mistakes, and sAw will punish.
Well, we know what's coming. We saw this one before. sAw in a better position this time with 3 players on B, and those sprays are absolutely brutal. Doesn't give the Tech-9 an opportunity to even go for the push, and Apeks prevented at the door. They changed the game plan with Dennis, trying to crowbar open the A-bomb site, but with the AWP watching and waiting, this is a tough ask. Back towards the counter-terrorist spawn. He has a powerful angle, and Muteris falls for it. Maybe the AWP wants to go for the swing, but give Dennis an inch and he'll take a mile. Within the CT spawn, this becomes a powerful position. Just he's taken the initiative.
I love that he calls for his flash from his teammate there. That's beautiful. Maybe it was even his own flash. Takes that initiative and just takes Apeks by storm. That is beautiful from him to hold tunnels there. Plenty of elephant trumpeting going on from those players. They walked right through, or ran, I should say. They were bulls in a china shop, and, well, Just was the owner with the shotgun behind the desk. In this case, bomb goes down, and Dennis, he's just going to have to sit here with his $400 and maybe count some bills while he waits for the next round. sAw, they're up.
Oh man, he dies after time, only $400 in the bank. If you play that one from Pit, you guarantee that you save, but he was stood out in the open, and Saw get fortunate on that one, not just with the round win, but ripping Dennis out of the server, and he can't even buy his trusty Deagle in this one. It leaves his money even low for the next. Remember, this has been very back and forth, Bronogo. The economy is broken, the loss bonus is nothing. Dennis won't have the money to invest even into round number 10 of this half.
Yeah, as if it could not get any worse for Apeks. You thought so, and well, Dennis dying after time, that is the last one for him. That's the last straw. So, timeout called. They've talked over their options. Looks like they're resilient in their lack of a buy going into this round. Should be 13 for sAw. Apeks have looked more competitive so far, but they need to do more than that. They need to do more than just take a few more rounds than they did on Vertigo. They've done 3 more than that map, but they need the win here to take us to Train. Otherwise, sAw will be cleaning this one up 2-0.
We saw that powerful setup towards the B bomb site for Apeks in round number 6 of this half, 21 of the game, where they were basically able to just punish the fact that sAw had 2 players holding. Even with just finding the first frag, they were able to brutalize that with Dennis playing that floating boat position. And sAw make the adjustment. They play 3 towards B when they see those smokes coming through. It's perfect. Apeks just looking for kills, looking for economic damage. I don't imagine they'll find too much.
It still is an opening against this CT roster because their money is not looking impregnable just yet. But they've got enough, and they will easily mop up the first 3 and the last 2 for Apeks. Kreese and Freddy Frog. No armor, no weapons, no nades, no nothing. They're going to be going down here, and it will be a 13th for sAw. Spitting distance of a 2-0 in this series.
And I'm surprised. After Apeks took that pistol, it really looked like the momentum was going to carry them through this T side. They've only found 2 since then, and they are disjointed rounds. If I open up the scoreboard here, oh, you don't actually see the rounds, so there we go. But Apeks, they've not been able to chain them together. Much like these kills, unable to find anything here. 13-11.
Yeah, just a tiny bit of damage to Rome, and that just gets reset. 13-11 indeed, and Kreese, he's already bought up that AK-47. It will be another missed buy, or mixed buy. Dennis with his trusty Deagle. Talked about that one earlier. That's just been a bit of a narrative following him as a player. Almost like a lower tier Lecro, if you will. Deagle main. Doesn't mind breaking that out on otherwise full buys from his team. Still can be competitive. Goes for the utility. And that's obviously because of the fact that he did die after time 2 rounds ago. Kreese trained on this angle towards Cat from tunnels. Gets naded. There will be Stododo falling back, but Rome has an angle towards doors, and this has not been checked.
Oh, spotting the shadow. That's why the angle's so powerful, and the bomb has gone awry in the open. They need to trade before salvaging it and backing off. Dennis can pick up one of those rifles. There's 2 fallen on the floor, and you see him scrambling to try and bring this back into a 4AK setup.
He's able to do it. So that will equalize things and continue to favor the T's as they make their positions known towards this catwalk area. That's Relaxa looking for something, trying to get even less utility on that CT side. Looks like they will be pivoting towards this A-bomb side after all, but there's full long control for sAw. Arky's been jiggling out that location for quite a while. Freddy might be able to catch him if he goes aggressive, but otherwise, sAw can be fairly comfortable in their A-hold at this point.
Oh, that seems to be the case. Actually hits a headshot, so some damage dealt, but he dies. That gives away long. This retake made so much harder if it ever comes through in the first place with Stad watching the angle AWP in hand. As he's got it, smoked away. He'll be countered from both sides, and missing the first shot seals his fate. The A site has fallen to Apeks, and even with the flank in place, both of these shots now needed. 9 seconds on the board. Relaxa bails towards the CT spawn. A perfect play to catch just off guard. He seems to finally be aware, and there is the trade, a 2v2. Orps not retrieved. They want to play this one with just the rifles, and Kreese out in the open might be the key floating voter. 2 headshots, Apeks with 12. We get almost an even game once again as they bring it back.
Yeah, and the buy is still good for sAw here, so they might be able to extend their lead, but that looked really nice from Apeks after the bomb plant went down. Looked even better beforehand, of course. They were able to extend their man advantage. Leverage the fact that an even score line for the men alive definitely favors the T's. And the CT defense was split. This time, 2 ops for sAw. Stadoto and Rome, both very high impact players. Quite powerful in their own rights here. And this does allow an AWP to take position very nicely towards that B bomb site where it has not been in the previous rounds. Apeks have to consider that. Right now they're considering an A long hit. That's Arky and Stadoto. Ladder from Carr. To receive any aggression that comes out, but it's been silent and dry. No nades revealing their positions. sAw could get caught with their pants down here.
It's impressive that they've been able to stabilize towards a double AWP setup. Apeks, though, as you say, full long control and 2 more players to join them along with the bomb. Gruss even running a fake, and that might prompt the peek from Arky onto long. It is off the back of the flashbang, and surely someone will be playing off the back of this one. Freddy brought the angle, and he peeks too late. It's a freebie for Apeks, a 4 versus 5, and as the flashes come over, that AWP being relegated to the corner doesn't have a smoke grenade to get him out of trouble. Calls for it from Mutinous. It comes in too late, and Apeks still maintaining the 1-man lead.
Oh, with Relaxa having a full kit of utility as well, and Gruss a flash and a molly, they can re-exec onto any site that they want to, but Rome catches the mid-aggression, and now they're forced their hand.
He can play this cross position. There is a smoke grenade to try and bait him out, but Dennis takes the swing before that smoke is even placed. And with 6 seconds left, how do they get this bomb down? Just can try and punish it. It's dropped into the open, round over. Relaxa has no chance and might even lose the AWP after the fact. He does.
Oh, that is brutal for Apeks. sAw able to take everything. They took the bomb and their money. And now Apeks Relaxa must be kicking himself after that one. He was baited out by a couple of well-timed M4 shots to look towards that long position instead of the rotate coming in. And that just meant that he was dead and goose. It's 14-12, but don't let it kid you. This is an eco round, not a full investment. Relaxa, no money after this either. Apeks are likely to go up against match and series point once they lose this round. They need something miraculous. They need to do something incredibly fast. And they will, but I think it's just going to be death.
Yeah, there's no smoke towards mid. They weren't even able to invest into it. Kree's going for the flashbang instead, and it's not even thrown. This one shut away. Map point.
Stadoto looking impressive as ever with a flick like that. Gruss not able to make much happen. Will be the full investment now, but crucially no AWP coming out.
Please no
That
Pronogo.
is very much brutal.
I think that we know what that means. Has your GoTV timed out?
Indeed.
It has. Okay, well, we'll go back to the cameras because I think we kind of know what that means at that point. It's disappointing, but I think that that probably means that it's a 16-12, and that's kind of the worst way to, like, leverage the series at the very end, right? It kind of takes all of the air out of the balloon. We knew that they didn't really have much of a chance. I guess over the next minute or so, we'll check out what's been happening. What have you made of this kind of, like, this Apeks side today? Because it's one of the first times that we've seen this current iteration.
Yeah, I think it's very clear who the top stars are, and really that's Krees and Dennis. They're the heavy hitters. Dennis with the name value as well, played in sites like Fnatic, so it's certainly he's no stranger to Counter-Strike. And with that in mind as well, you have to really give Krees some props here, given the fact that, of course, he turned some heads when he stood in for Gen G. Some people wrote him off as almost a bit of a, you know, a surprise pick, and maybe he would just fall back down and regress to the mean. But even in this, you know, sort of floundering series that the rest of his team had, I think he's proven that he's somebody to keep tabs on. So those are my 2 picks as far as their roster goes. And personally, I hope that they can continue to fire up. It seems very obvious that when you lose so many rounds and it's a back and forth nature and your loss bonus never gets built up, especially on the T side, you're not going to have as many gun rounds or properly fully equipped rounds. There's a lot of concessions that were made, especially on Vertigo as well in the first map of this series, where it really was just a stomp in the early half. So bearing that in mind, the fact that he was still able to exceed 20 kills in that first map is very impressive for me. Somebody certainly to keep your eyes on. And while they didn't manage to turn too many heads in this particular round as a team, I still think that it worked out quite well at the end of the day. And, it's a showing that maybe they're not proud of, but you could see where the pieces are and when they're going to come together.
Yeah, we just have been given confirmation that that was a 16-12, so congratulations to sAw. They put in a powerful performance, not just on Dust 2 there, but Vertigo as well. Their map pick, and it looked very, very convincing. I was really impressed by what they showed us, especially on that T side, where it really did feel like Apeks didn't have enough. They didn't bring anything to the table there.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case for my money. Apeks were not able to make sAw's T sides really reconsider until we saw them on Dust 2. The CT side for Apeks with that double op setup found much more success than on Vertigo. You could see why Apeks picked that map, that they were much more comfortable on it in general. And that's when, sAw had to kind of dig deep, and they did lose the half by 1 round, which is not necessarily something to write home about on Dust 2 of all maps, where it is a little bit more, in flux who's going to be winning that, even if you do pick it. But I think that, Apeks are showing where they can force sAw's hand, and unfortunately it just wasn't enough when it mattered. Of course, they lost a couple of very key close rounds, especially on Dust 2 and especially towards that second half, where there were some steals from both teams, but sAw had the discipline and the sort of pedigree, I suppose, to remain steadfast in the face of such rounds, whereas maybe the protocols aren't there for a lot of those messy situations just because it's a less experienced roster. It's a roster that has not been together enough time to gel to the same degree that sAw's has.
Well, our sole best of 3 today comes to an abrupt end. sAw take it 2-0, and that is our show over. We'll be back same time, same place next week for more ESEA Premier action. We'll see you then.
Yes, nice shot, my friend.
Cheaters ruining your plays?
I have eyes on the enemy.
Bad servers stopping your shots? What you need is ESEA. Advanced anti-cheat to stop cheaters. And the best servers around, all with 128 tick rate. ESEA, the best way to play CSGO.
It's hard, I just wish someone on my team would have told me. Apparently, I'm really not that good with this thing. Also, I die way too often in apartments, seem to never have enough money on buy rounds, and flashed 4 teammates just yesterday. Wait, what? I didn't.
You did, Sean.
Oh. But I'm much better with the 5.7 than you are, Elias, and I got 34 entry kills last week, and I should actually be playing B-side. I'm much more useful over there.
What grade did you get this week?
I got a C. That's not too bad, right?
Let's go.
Nope, gotta go. If you want to know what you're good at, and, well, also what you suck at,